What's going on YouTube? Drake Talks coming at you with another video. Now, this video is based off a question I got on my Instagram story. If you haven't checked it out, check it out already. Instagram is at Drake Talks, DrakeTalks. But anyways, I'm just talking, so I want to hear what everyone wants to know, and I like to get the interaction from everybody that's on my channel, on my page. And I put up, what should I talk about in my next YouTube video? And something that someone said really stood out to me, and it's something I should have touched up on a long time ago, but what better time than now to do it. So the question that they said to talk about is, what do you put in your descriptions in your listings? Now this can be on eBay, Mercury, whatever, Poshmark, Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, LetGo, Grailed, any of those seller platforms. This can be the biggest thing that you need to focus on, other than pictures for your listings. Okay, now this is what's going to separate you from another seller. Like say you got two of the same products, one of them says used. That's it. That's the only thing they put in the description. And then you got the other one, the same exact product. This one says used, and this one has a huge description. It's talking about the size, the condition, the measurements from the bottom of the collar to the hem. It's talking about length from pit to pit. It's talking about the length from the chest, the sleeve length, like knowing it's going to fit you. It's talking about if there's a minor tear here. It's talking about these little details that really add up to the buyer, because I'm not going to buy something if I'm not confident in what they're selling me. So say it's a puffer coat. Does it have feathers poking out? Does it have a stain? Does it have a certain smell to it? Is there something I should be looking out for? If they just say used, I'm not going to know these things. But this other seller, I'm going to go with them because they are telling me, they are being honest, they are being truthful with me, and I would buy that more than this used one. Now, I would like to break it down into 3 categories, just to be general. I would break it down into clothing, electronics, and then toys or like display collections. Now, what I mean by that would be, for clothing would be like a jacket, a crew neck, all that stuff. So let's start with that one. All right, I'm gonna show you an example of this coming on the computer. But with clothing, the biggest things you want to talk about are going to be the dimensions, like the measurements from the length from the bottom of collar to the hem. Now what that is, I will show you an example of that right now. So we are looking at this crew neck in particular. I'm just using this one because it has some flaws that I'm going to eventually clean out myself. I got some work to do on this one. But anyways, so for example, this is a clothing piece. This is a crew neck. This is something that I sell a lot of: crew necks, sweatshirts, shirts, all those things. But the biggest things you want to include are going to be these things, okay? So the first measurement that I use all the time is going to be the length from the bottom of the collar, so that would be right there, and then measure it down to the bottom of the hem, okay? So that's going to be this piece. So length from bottom of collar to hem. So what that means is that's just a good measurement to use for the people to know how tall it's going to be, how it's going to fit them. And another measurement I use is going to be length from pit to pit. Now this one's going to be a little tougher, but I'll show you another example right now. Might as well do it. So with something like this is going to be a lot different because when you do the length from the pit to pit, this is a little easier to see. Now I take my measuring tape and I line it up right there where that is. It's easy to notice. It's just right there from the pit, measure it over to that one. Now that measurement is going to give the buyer to know how wide it's going to be, how it's going to fit on them, on their chest. So now they have the length from the bottom of collar to the hem. Now they have the length from the pit to the other pit. Now they know. A lot of people, I personally don't do it, but I see a lot of people doing it. They will measure the sleeve length, so it'd be from there to the end of the cuff. Or they will do, a few other things that you can research yourself. And then another thing you want to call out when you are doing like clothing pieces, crew necks, all that good stuff. You want to call out any minor wear that you see or any like flaws. So with this, I'm probably going to call out that it's a little distressed. You can see that for yourself. It's almost like pulled together. You know, you see it. And, you know, you can see the tag. And if, say it says large, okay, and I personally don't think it'll fit like a large, it may fit more like a medium, I will call that out to the buyer. I will tell them, I will show you some examples of it. Why not? Let's get right to it. All right, guys, we're going to be using this jacket as an example, okay? So we're going to scroll down here. We're going to take a look at my description that I used. Please excuse the crack. I dropped the laptop, but just look through it and you'll be able to see the value I'm providing. So this description, I always start them off with this: excellent pre-owned condition, because usually the items I pick up are in excellent pre-owned condition. No major signs of stains and tears that I can find on it. So now that is justifying that you can't find it. Maybe there might be some, but I truly try to see if there are, and if there are, I will call them out. Colors are bright and pop. Stitching on all logos is excellent, because that is one of the details on the jacket that stands out the most, is that all the stitching and all the logos. So you want to focus on those details as well. Overall, very clean jacket. Hard to find with just the NASCAR logos. And then I include my measurements, like I said earlier: length from bottom of collar to hem, length from pit to pit. So now that is giving them, you know, to compare it to what they usually wear. I always say this, just to be careful. The item is sold as is. Comes from a smoke-free home. So when I say that, I'm just saying that it doesn't smell like cigarette smoke. It helps the buyer know, just in case. The item may need a lint roller applied to it when received. I do not wash my items in case of shrinking or ruining the item. Now, I love to say this because, you know, when I don't like to wash my items. Some people may prefer it, but I personally don't. So instead of just selling it pre-owned straight from the thrift store or wherever I got the product, I want to let the buyer know I'm being truthful, I'm being honest. I'm telling them I don't wash it. It's not washed. Like, you are going to have to wash it. And then also I include, if it's going to be like a dry clean only product, just like, for example, a puffer coat, one of those down jackets filled with feathers. Sometimes like wool coats are dry clean only, some of those things. So you always got to include it. And I don't like to wash. That's a lot of water. It's laundry detergent, all that stuff. And most buyers don't care. And especially if you call it out, they will know. You know, they're going to read it and they will know. Occasionally from time to time you get buyers who, you know, sort of complain. They just message and say, hey, and then I tell them to look at the description, and then it clears things up. 99% of the time they're okay with it because they thoroughly read the description, because that is one of the biggest parts that they look at when they're buying something. Now, the next thing I'm going to say is going to be this. I use these 3 lines as a template. So I save this in my phone, in my notes, and then I just put it on every single listing at the end. All right, this is how it goes. I pride myself in being honest and providing my eBay buyers with awesome products for great prices. I ship as quickly as I can, answer questions as fast as I can, resolve issues to the best of my ability, and provide you with a comfortable, safe, and wonderful shopping experience. So I hope you have fun. Although I don't accept returns, feel free to reach out to me if you have any concerns that go outside the spectrum of just changing your mind. So make sure you have viewed all the information, reviewed all of the pictures, and ask as many questions as you need to. Now, once again, this is just making sure that the buyer knows what they're doing, they know that they're buying with confidence, and they know who they're buying from, you know? I am being as truthful as I can. I will ship as fast as I can. Please make sure you read all this stuff before you buy. Like, I'm just putting so much emphasis, you know, on the buyer, that you can trust me, and make sure that you look thoroughly, because I'm not going to sell you something and then, you know, try to jip it out, like sneakily sell it to you and know that there's a ton of things wrong with it. And just, you know, I'm not trying to come across as sneaky or sly or trying to sell you this jacket and say it's super nice when it's really not. I'm being as truthful as I can, and buyers love that. They leave reviews or they send me messages and say, thank you for being so honest and truthful. I really appreciate it. And then it leads to more sales. Like, it's crazy how much being honest can impact your sales. You may think it may kill your sales a little bit if you call out tears, stains, but being honest, like, obviously they're going to buy that. They're going to see that, and then they'll look at your other listings and your other products, and they will know that they can trust you on all of those things as well. So say they're looking at a jacket, and then maybe they like it, but then they see that it has like stains or tears, and then they'll be like, I don't know if I want it anymore. And then they may look at your other listings and know that you're truthful, and then they'll end up buying something. So, it's just being honest always wins in the end, 100% of the time. Being honest will win. So now we're done with the clothing. That's what I like to say. And you can always pause it and go back and check those things. But now we're going to move on to what I do for the electronics. All right, guys, we're going to use this as an example. We are using a DVD player with the remote that I picked up from a Goodwill. Now we're going to scroll down and we're going to read what I put for the description. All right. So, as I said before, great pre-owned condition. And then with electronics, you always want to test them. So this item is tested and working. Excellent exterior as well with minimal wear and scratches. Comes with a remote and works. Now this part is key. Tested only to follow basic functions, power on and off, disk eject, remote functions. Now by saying this is going to be truthful. You are letting them know that you plugged it in, you turn the power on, you open the disk and ejection, or you just test the basic functions of whatever it is. Now some things you may not even get the chance to test. So for example, I've sold a number of Polaroid cameras that I did not ever test because I didn't have film. I didn't want to pay for the film. I don't want to take the time to go and get that stuff. But most importantly, I just call it out and say it's untested. I don't know if it works. It's sold as is. And people will buy that stuff because they usually know how to fix them. They know, there's nothing wrong. You just need to put in film or those kind of small things. But with like a DVD player, what I do, I just test the power to make sure that the disc ejects work, and then make sure that the remote turns on and opens the disc. Now, I'm not going to actually plug it into my TV, watch a movie on it. I'm not going to go that far because that takes a lot of time out of taking pictures and my listing time. And it just takes a lot of time for me. People may like to do that, but personally, I don't. I just make sure that the power works, the disc eject works, and that the remote works. And then a big thing I like to do just to protect me in case of any claims, from the buyers that they don't work, even though they do. I like to, when I'm testing them, I record it. It only takes like 30 seconds to a minute to record. I just take my phone, and while I'm doing it, I record. I say, so this is the date, and then I say, this is the product. I call it out, and then I'll say, I'm turning it on, it works. I'm using the remote, it works, and then show it. Because just in case you send it to the buyer and they claim that it doesn't work, you have video evidence before the sale that the product worked and that this buyer is lying. And that can protect you from some hefty returns because these things are going to be heavy and the shipping's expensive. And then, it just protects you in general. No one likes to not be protected. So that's one of the big things that comes with electronics. So that's personally what I like to do. And then at the end, I just said the item is sold as is, comes from a smoke-free home. Please message me with any questions. And then I input that 3-sentence template at the end saying, I ship as quickly as I can, answer questions, that template I already told you about earlier. So now we're going to move on to the final thing that, it's like the other category. It's going to be like toys, models, statues, collectibles, just items in general. Now we are going to use a board game as an example because I like to sell a lot of cool board games, some unique ones, and this can also fit with anything really, like a measuring tape, a coffee mug, some toys. Like this will fit for all of them. So let's scroll down and check it out. With board games, you have to, first off, you have to check and make sure all the pieces are there. So right here, I say 100% complete because what I did, I went on eBay and went to other people's previously sold listings that said it was 100% complete. And when I check all the pieces of the game, I make sure that all of mine match all of theirs. And if it's not, I don't say it's 100% complete. But since this was, I do. Box shows somewhere near mint condition because it actually was very good. And if it wasn't, I would call it out. I would say rough edges, it's falling apart, some of those things. Be honest. Honesty is key. The best use condition you'll come across. I said that because I compared it to the other ones, and mine looked a lot better than theirs. And then, of course, I added the template at the end. Now, with this exact product, like this exact board game, This buyer purchased it, and it came out of the blue for me. Like, usually people like to ask questions before they buy stuff, especially board games. This one included a VCR tape, and this buyer purchased it right away. And then I messaged them, and then I said, hey, thank you for your purchase. I just want to let you know that I did not test the VCR tape that's included in the game. Or if some games include like CDs and stuff, I will say, I'm sorry, I did not test it because I don't want to. I don't want to waste time listing. Anyways, this buyer responds to me and said, thank you for being honest. I actually found it on YouTube. I appreciate your honesty so much. And then they left an awesome review for me. Now, I like to just if you ever feel like the buyer may not get the point, or they may not have read the description because they don't ask questions, or you just feel a little like it's a little off, always message them before you send it out, because you just want to make sure. Because if they say, oops, sorry, I don't want to buy it anymore, you can just refund it instead of having to track down that shipment and get it back and all that other nonsense. So if you ever feel off or sketchy about a buyer, always message and make sure that they read the description. I tend to do that too much. I don't know if it's bad or good, but I always like to message and make sure that they read the description thoroughly before I send it off, because honesty is key, and that also helps diminish returns. So those are going to be, the 3 basic categories. There's obviously a ton of other things, but that last one, like the game, can fit with like a toy. Like, for example, say this is the measuring tape. Say I'm selling this measuring tape. I will say minor wear, it has minor scratches, it functions properly, has no issues opening. Or if I'm selling, little toys and I had to glue them back together, which I have had to do before. I had little figurines and I had to glue them back together. I will say that. Like, I will say I super glued them back together. I will call out all the things that are wrong with it. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's stuff that the buyer definitely should know before they purchase, so they don't get something that they thought was what they were getting, but it came different. You always want to make sure the buyers know, everything about your product. You want to be 100% fully transparent with them, because this will, reduce your returns. You will get better feedback, and people love honesty. So I hope you guys took something good away from this. This is a pretty basic video format. I'm very happy that person, I forgot who it was. My bad, I'm sorry if you're watching this. But, I'm very glad that they asked that question, because descriptions and listings is, aside from pictures, the most important thing to get people to buy your products. Like, they're gonna obviously pick the one that has more detail, that has more honesty, fully transparent sellers, over the one that just says use. Okay, now I hope I just drill that in your brain. I hope you can take some of these things. I hope you can take them and implement them into your listings, into your strategy, your business model. If it helps, awesome. If you have feedback from me on how I can improve on my listings, definitely leave a comment, DM me on my Instagram. I love hearing from you guys and getting new tips, because a lot of you guys are doing way different things to me, and they can be a lot more efficient. And since I'm just starting, I'm just documenting. I'm not trying to push this on you like this is what you need to do. I'm just sharing what works for me. So if you guys have any recommendations or tips, or just love the video and like it, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. Follow me on Instagram, all that good stuff, and then we can go from there. So I really appreciate you watching this. If this is your first time on my channel, I hope you got so much value from it. And let's move on to all these other sales in eBay. Now, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.